Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Rebecca. Rebecca Harvin. I almost said Marvin then, but no, it's definitely Harvin. Looking forward to our conversation today, Rebecca.
Me too. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
you're welcome. So, Rebecca and I spoke last week, and we got on like a house on fire. And at one point of the conversation, she was telling me about a little bit about the story, and it was a question that came to you. And the question was, how do we thrive?
hmm Yeah, it was like we've been asking the wrong question. We've been asking, how do we survive this? And I was wondering, kind of out loud, if we'd been asking the wrong question and if we could ask a different question, which was, how do we thrive here?
Yeah. So how long ago did that question come to you? Do you remember?
Yep, that happened on New Year's Eve of 2018.
Right. That's a pretty good memory there.
Well, I did just tell you that I went to school to study history. So dates
Okay.
are dates are kind of my thing.
Okay. Okay. So what have you learnt in those, well, coming up 7 years from that? What have you learnt the uh, about the answers to that question?
Um, gosh, I think three different things. Can I do that? Can I
You
answer
can,
three
yeah,
different ways? Okay.
of course.
So the first thing that I have learned in a 7 year, like 30,000 view is that I don't always remember to ask that question. There are definitely seasons where we slip back into the how do we survive this instead of asking how do we thrive here. Um, the second thing that I learned how to do over the course of the last 7 years was to fall madly in love with reality. And what I mean by that is not necessarily always being madly in love with the things that were happening in life, but this reckless commitment to being aware of reality and not telling a story about reality. I started becoming aware of the stories that I was telling myself that shaped my perspective of the scenario. Um, and so I started peeling that back layer by layer. And then the third thing that I've learned over the last 7 years is to start asking myself, what do I need right now? Given that nothing might change about the landscape around me, what do I need right now in order to thrive here where my feet are and not wait for some ambiguous day off in the future?
Yeah. So, listeners, I perhaps should have given you a bit of context. So, Rebecca is a mum of six, four by adoption and two bio kids, and she also runs Haven Retreats, which it is what it sounds like. It's a retreat, but it's a retreat for where kids and parents go together when they're burnt out and or on the edge of burning out. I don't know. And that you founded that on the back of one
From
of
that
those questions,
question.
yeah.
Mhm.
What do I
Mhm.
really need? What do I need right now? And the thing that you needed right now was a retreat, a space away, a sacred space, a space of peace, retreat.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of those things. So, um, falling madly in love with reality. So you've got this juxtaposition there of between of reality and story. So how does
Mhm.
that? What does that mean? Like, is it about of you being slightly off? Like
Oh, okay.
is it trauma
So
glasses? Is it
sure.
yeah
Well, we all tell ourselves stories all the time, right? Human beings are people of story. And so we tell ourselves stories to make sense of the world around us. If something were to happen, like you didn't get invited to the party on Friday night, that and you find out that everybody's having a party, instead of just saying I didn't get invited to the party, fact, you say it's probably because, and then we fill in that gap with something that never honestly feels good to our bodies or our brains, right? We fill in that gap with a story of rejection. Um, and so I started learning how to peel that, to come back to I didn't get invited to the party on Friday night in that example. Um, in a much bigger, broader context, there's um, can I tell you a story right now?
Of course.
Okay. So I was at one of our retreats, and somebody came up to me, and they were praying over my husband and I. And in the middle of the prayer, they said, "You're going to receive divine clarity this week." And I think that they thought that they were talking to both of us or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But I was leaving for Christian Alliance for Orphans conference, CAFO, and I kind of held that. Okay, maybe some divine clarity is coming. In that, I have a rocky um, relationship with my father. I have always had a rocky relationship with my father, um, and that was at the surface during this season of life. So I am in a workshop, and it's being led by Dr. Kurt Thompson, who is a renowned psychiatrist. And he's talking about suffering and like the neurodivergent path of healing or something like that. I'm completely botching the title. Suffering and the Neuroplasticity of Hope is the title of this workshop. And I'm sitting kind of in the front row. And he's talking, and he's talking about suffering, and he says the three different ways that we suffer. We suffer because of things that happen to us. We suffer because of um, things that we do or say that causes suffering, and then we suffer on our way towards healing, right? And the second one was like things that we do or say, like stories that we tell ourselves that increases our suffering. And as he's walking on the stage, he says, my father will never love me in the way that I need him to is a story that you tell yourself that increases your suffering. And he makes direct eye contact with me, and he says, do you hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And I shake my head and I say, no, I don't understand this. And he stops what he's doing. There's 300 people in this room. He stops what he's doing. He looks me dead in my eyes and he says, my father will never love me in the way that I need him to, is a story that you are telling yourself that is increasing your suffering. And I was like, well, I think that was the moment of divine clarity, but I don't like know what it is, right? And as I sat there thinking about it, because I did not experience my father's love in that season of life, nor do I experience it in this season of life. And so it was like, well, what is this? What is the question? What is the story? It's the will never. That sentence right there increases my suffering because I apply it to my future. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it is currently accurate that my father does not love me in a way that I need him to. And that's falling in love with reality, understanding that and knowing that that's a part of my life right now. But to add will never is applying that to the future, and it leaves me without hope for that relationship.
Yeah. I wanted to raise something that happened for me over the weekend, something that I saw over the weekend, which I think is similar kind of a thing. So it's the difference between the sensation of panic
Mm-hmm.
and the thought of panic.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have I had an embodied experience of panic. I guess what some people might call a panic attack.
Sure.
When I was in Orlando a few weeks ago and I thought I'd lost my car keys.
Okay.
I thought I'd lost, yeah, and how was I going to get home when I flew back to Manchester? Right? That there was the panic that was going on within my body, and then there was the thoughts that were going through my head,
Mm-hmm.
and they're two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
Two different things. They aren't the same. You could split those down to two. One,
You really
yeah,
can. You can separate it and you can tend to your body, right? You can tend in that moment to my body is dysregulated. I'm having a panic. I need to breathe, right? Like how can I care for my body right now? I can ground my feet on the floor and I can breathe and I can regulate my nervous system. The thoughts that are creating panic, they're all stories that our brain is making up. I'm not going to have my keys. I'm not going to be able to get home. I'm not going to be able to
yeah,
do
blah
X,
blah.
Y, or Z. And you can come back to, first of all, you have to regulate your nervous system. You have to breathe here in a panic attack. And Lord knows I have I have experienced panic attacks in the middle of this too, right? So just step one is I've got to breathe, I've got to ground myself. I'm here. And you bring yourself all the way back into reality. So for me, that looks like going, I'm 43. It looks like going, looking around the room and saying, I can see, if you're in the parking lot, like I can see a red car, I see pavement, I see this. And then I remind myself that there's not a lion that's chasing me, right? I just bring myself, I am safe. My body is safe because all of that is just messages
Yeah,
of I'm not safe, right? And then your brain is making up all of these um, supporting evidence. It's just creating supporting evidence
yeah.
to
It's
that.
snowballing.
It's snowballing, and so you get your nervous system regulated, and then you go, okay, what do I know to be true? I'm 43. I'm standing here. I am fully safe. Okay, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid that my keys are not going to be here. Okay, like there, like, and you just kind of start working your way into it. Um, is definitely it's a tool that I use all the time.
So the thought I had on the back of that thought was that's what there's this distinction. There's a distinction between trauma and beliefs about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So trauma isn't something we can put into words.
Right,
We can describe it.
right.
We can describe it. We can tell a story about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a story. And it's trauma isn't a story. It's a felt sensation. And the thought that came up, the thought that prompted that was uh, pre-verbal trauma doesn't have words.
Right,
So if pre-verbal trauma doesn't have words, then anything I say about pre-verbal trauma must be a fabrication. It must be a belief. It must be a
mm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this came as clear. I read a post on Facebook, and I just thought that's a belief about that's a belief about trauma. That description of trauma, and it was similar to your thing with your dad, like the
Yep.
never. I
Yes.
will never. Right.
Yes.
This thing, this post on Facebook was a belief about trauma. But trauma, you can't put trauma into words. You can't put, especially you can't put pre-verbal trauma into words because I had no words.
Right.
I had no words when my mother placed me. I could say
Mm-hmm.
my mother placed me, or I could say my mother relinquished me, couldn't I? And
Mm-hmm.
there would be a big difference around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But but we're on dogs 3 and 4, right? Um,
Okay.
but out of our 4 dogs, the first one I think was the one that cried the most on the night the first night away from her
Yeah.
mum is at eight
Yeah.
weeks old, and she's spending that night with us, and she's crying, right?
Yeah.
She's crying. So she hasn't, but she hasn't got words either. It's for her, it's a feeling. Trauma is a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something with words.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the whole thing is fabricate. The whole thing is we're fabricating it. We
Mm-hmm.
fabricated it, and as you said before we started recording, uh, our our beliefs make sense to us. Our
Yeah.
habits make sense to us. The way
Yep.
we vote makes sense to us,
Yep.
right? And
Everybody's story makes sense to them.
their story makes sense to them. Our
Yeah.
story makes sense to us.
Yep.
Our beliefs about trauma make sense to us. Our trauma history makes sense to us.
Yes. Yes.
And but it's not words. Trauma isn't words. It's sensations.
Yeah. I've heard of trauma as being like, it's a very embodied experience. You're absolutely correct about that. Like it lives. Um, my friend and I, when we talk about certain aspects of traumas that we've experienced in life, um, and beliefs that have come because of that, we talk about it as living between the very cells of our bodies. Like um, that to that it can cause a lot of confusion moving into healing, moving into more freedom or whatever, because these belief patterns live so deeply inside of us that it feels as if it lives in between the cells, right?
In
Um,
between the cells.
in between the cells is how my friend and I talk about it.
Yeah.
And um,
The issue is in the tissue, is what I've heard. Yeah.
there we go. The body keeps the score,
The body
right?
keeps the score. And have you seen Bessel van der Kolk dancing?
No, should I?
Well, maybe not. I don't know. But his body is keeping the score, and his body is keeping the score of how many pints of beer he drinks a night.
Mm.
Yeah, I love beer.
Yeah,
I love beer.
yeah,
So does Bessel.
yeah,
So does Bessel. I think,
yeah.
or maybe he loves food. I don't know. But
Uh,
something's keeping his body is keeping the score of something, and that's to do with his intake or
yeah,
his
but
intake or his lack of exercise. One of those two things.
our bodies our bodies do keep like in that kind of sense, right? Like our bodies, um, gosh,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
had a I had a couple medical procedures within the last 2 months. And the first they're very similar in nature. Like the first one we were hoping would be enough that we didn't need the second one, right? But the first one said, "Oh, there's actually more problems than we know and we have to Google the problems." So we're definitely going to need the second
yeah.
procedure. And
Slight concern there that
well,
medical professional
I'm
would.
not one to like get all up into like I don't WebMD myself, right? Like I kind of follow a doctor's leading until the doctor like can
But the
actually
but the
diagnose
doctor's
something.
using Google too. That's the
The
challenge.
doctor actually did use Google too. The doctor was like, I had to Google this. I've never seen how this report came back. But um the first procedure, I started having a panic attack on the way to the procedure. And my husband was driving the car. No, I was driving the car. That was fun. I was driving the car and I couldn't breathe. I was completely beside myself because I had forgot my medicine at home that she had prescribed for the procedure. And I was going to have to do that anyhow. It's a procedure you could do without medicine, but it's going to be very uncomfortable. And I'm in the office, and Simon, when I tell you, I'm 43. I'm in this room. I see the clouds. I see that, like, and I'm like doing this. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm totally safe. And it took me a long time in that room to realize that this procedure was triggering trauma from my past. It took me a very long time. But I eventually realized what was happening. And when it did, I was able to use all of the tools that I've acquired over the last couple of years and therapies and different things and able to ground my body and all of that, all of it. Well, then I had to go back for this procedure just a couple days ago. And it was a remarkable difference in my body, right? Because I had attuned to my body the first time. Like it was saying all kinds of things that it didn't have words for. I was falling apart in this doctor's office. Like they were like, maybe you need to go home. And I was like, no, just do the procedure. But this time I was able to like really what I did, and it was so sweet, was like I was able to care and to tend to my body on the front end and to say like you're good and you're worthy of being cared for, and that's what we're doing here. Like we're tending to you here, and we just have to ask, like, very sweetly interacting. This is brand new stuff to me. Like the body keeps the score shows up in real life, but tending to our bodies, nurturing our bodies, being caring and kind, that is brand new stuff to me. um but I got to see the difference. I got to see what it felt like to tend to. I also put my medicine in my car the night before, so I did not have a panic attack on the way. But anyhow, it's very trauma does lock itself into our bodies for sure. I
Yeah.
have definitely experienced that.
I haven't done this I haven't shared this on the podcast for a while. Um, I'm sure I haven't shared it with you. When I heard the body keeps a score, um, I thought about I thought about I was swimming and the following day or the same day as I heard about, and I thought soccer. I thought soccer, a soccer analogy, right?
Mm.
So the body keeps the score, and for adoptees, it's trauma scores first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's trauma nil.
Mm.
Sorry, it's trauma one, adoptees nil. Trauma
Mm.
one, adoptees nil. But then what healing is about, and the conversations around that space, and the conversations around healing in general, means that the final score after 90 minutes is trauma one, adoptees united 10.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that so much, Simon.
Let's make
And
it even better. Adoption Constellation 10. Because otherwise, Adoptees United is a little bit, othering, isn't it? For adoptive mums, right? So Adoption Constellation 10.
is it othering, or does it say like adoptees have so much agency and ability to heal and beauty in the healing journey that other people get to come alongside? I get to come
Yeah.
alongside my kids, but it is my children who actually are going to be the ones that do the work of healing over the course of their lives. And I get a front row seat. I get to be at Adoptees United on the front row, waving my
Okay.
like big finger, like fan number one, right? And I have a job to do in that cheering section too. But at the end of their life, it will be my children who get to say, trauma got the first, trauma got the first score, but I have dedicated my life to winning this game. And trauma doesn't actually get the final score here. And
So that's going to be the shortest podcast I've ever done, because you just nailed it after 30 minutes, right? Now we're going into extra time, because that was the perfect point on which to end.
I mean, we can if you
And I
want
cut you
to.
off, right? Sorry.
You're totally fine, but I see you getting emotional on the screen. And I, for so long as an adoptive mom, I gripped, um, I overemphasized my role as the main character in the healing story. And I made it about my ability to do the right things and say the right things and bring my kids to the right therapies and do I had this I overemphasized my role as the main. I'm not the main character in their healing story. They are the main characters. Um and I get to be on the front row seat and I get to watch them play this out and release. For me, it's about releasing the outcome. It's about releasing control, and it's about saying, like, how can I, let's use this soccer analogy all the way. How can I set the field up? How can I set the how can I create a space that is healing for you? How can I set your life up in a way that is healing, that you have the ability, but to remove somebody's agency kind of a little bit creates a victim, right? Like says like you're not able to do this. And so it has to be mine. And I will like dole out healing through the years. But like, you know
It's
what
a
I mean?
medical model.
It's a medical model. But but but
But what if they're not wounded?
to empower, say that again.
What if they're not wounded?
What if they're not wounded? Um, you and I both don't like the term broken, right? Like you and I
Correct.
both don't.
Well, I'm using those, I would use those as what's the word? Synonyms, right? I would use broken or broken or wounded. I would have those in, I would use those interchangeably. They have that both of them to me don't reflect the truth. Neither of those reflects the truth.
Okay, I have a thought about that, but I want to know what reflects the truth.
Well, I'm supposed to be interviewing you, so you know what I mean. So the let me go back before I answer that question. Let me go back
Okay.
to the moment that you realized you were, let's say, overemphasizing your role.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Is that the word? Overemphasizing?
Yeah,
Over?
that's the word that I used.
Is it? Okay. Oh, wow. I do. Right. So, what what was it that helped you see that,
What was it that helped me see
or
that?
do you remember? You remembered the
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I remember.
Okay.
Um, I remember. Um,
Is this a bit embarrassing? Is that why?
no, it's not
Oh,
embarrassing.
good.
It's not
Okay. Good.
embarrassing. And I'm just trying to like figure out how to package it succinctly. Um, I realized that I was overemphasizing my role because I was I was just kind of at the complete and utter end of myself.
Oh.
And so I
Oh.
was like, something is not working here. Like I'm waking up every day and by the end of the day, I am completely and utterly depleted. And actually, we've been in this season where I am so depleted and nothing that I'm doing is working. Um, and then I asked the question like, what is like like I called a friend actually, and she helped guide me through some questions. Like she's a really good external processor with me, and she just kind of asks questions until I get to it. And then I was like, oh, I am holding on so tight to demanding outcomes that um, I'm not able anymore to see my children for who they are. I'm not able to um I'm putting such a high pressure situation on myself. My marriage therapist called it superhuman expectations of myself, and um I just kind of sat with that for a while and said, okay, what actually, what would not superhuman expectations look like? What does it look like? Then I had to do a whole lot of work in codependency, actually, is where I ended up having to go to, was like, oh, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible to a lot of things, and I'm responsible for my children, right? Like their safety and their upbringing and everything. But at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for the outcomes.
Trying too hard.
Trying too hard. And
But it came,
like
the realization came to you in the pit, though,
in the pit.
in the pit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I often think of um, realizations coming to me when I'm feeling calm.
Oh.
So I've heard this stuff. I heard this story about from a mentor of mine, and he was, he's talking about he heard it from somebody else. Uh, did he? Yeah. Um, so they interviewed so many managers across the US. When do you have your best ideas? And
Mm.
it was like in in the shower or
In the shower, driving my
in
car.
the bath. Yeah, okay, you've heard that
Yeah.
one, right? And so the CEO hears this story, and so his question to the facilitator that shared this gem with him is, so how many baths do my staff need to take? How many showers do my staff need to take?
Well, I think that really the question is like, how much margin do we have? Right? Because those are the places that create margin in our lives. We're by ourselves in the shower, we're by ourselves in the car, in those scenarios where we're just driving. Maybe we're listening to music, maybe we're not, but I drive a ton. And so the car is always where I process. I was driving when I was having this conversation with my friend, but at my core, I love to solve a problem. It's one of the things that I love in life, is solving problems. So in the pit is actually where you kind of see you're experiencing the problem. And so I will go from that moment to like, okay, something's not working, and I will pull myself out and look at it. It's like I kind of visualize um like pieces on a table, and I just kind of visualize what's happening, and then I see what needs to be like moved around or whatever. So in that particular um when I started to understand that I was trying too hard, that I was overemphasizing my role, the it was really the like despondence that I was feeling in our family situation that was the key that unlocked it.
Yeah. So what I'm lesson I'm taking from this, or the insight I'm having from this, is that I can have insights in the shower. I can have insights in the pit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I think of probably the most profound insights, they've been in the pit.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do I want to say this? I I think that we get to that good can come from anywhere, right? And so if we stop, I'm not a fan of pits in life, I'm not a fan of despondence or all of the negative feelings that come
What sort of
with
a what
living
sort
the
of a mum are
human.
you?
Do what?
What sort of a person are you? You
I
mean
know.
you're not a fan? You're
I'm
not a
not a
fan?
fan. I'm not a fan. Some people are
God,
very
are you off your
comfortable there.
head?
I'm like, I'm like, get me the heck out of Dodge, you know? But I have learned in the same way that, like, I've learned that when my body is having a large reaction to something, it's actually trying to speak to me. And so the pit, like those big realizations come in the pit because life, our body, it's getting really loud right then. And if we stop and ask some questions, it has a lot to tell us. And the way that I felt that particular day had a lot to tell me.
Yeah. So you used a key word there, right? For me, a kind of a da 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 word, realizations, right?
Mm,
And you talked about Kurt Thompson, who a few people have mentioned to me, actually. I did some research, did some digging around, but I couldn't see anything that really wowed me. Maybe I need to take another look at that. Because, yeah, he used the word neuroplasticity in the name
hmm
of his talk. And that feels to me, I think the jargon of the moment is gate kept. That neuroplasticity feels something that we need something like somebody else to help us with, right?
mm,
Not necessarily Kurt Thompson, but maybe Kurt Thompson, or maybe the guy I mentioned before, my mentor I was talking about, who told the shower story, a guy called Michael Neal. Neuroplasticity feels like it's the domain of a specialist,
oh, okay.
and but I'm not even sure which, right? But neuroplasticity doesn't really mean anything, but realizations that
Yeah.
they are neuroplasticity. Sorry, yeah, a realization is proof of neuroplasticity. That's neuroplasticity is
hmm
a change in our mind, a change of
hmm
mind, a change of perspective, a
hmm
realization, an epiphany, a shift in perspective, a new idea bolt out of the blue, an insight, an epiphanet, right? It's like an epiphany, but a bit smaller. All
Uh-huh.
these words, like you go on a course and you get epiphany envy, right? People
hmm
are having bigger epiphanies than you. You're just having epiphanets and they're just, but so neuroplasticity is a change of mind. A change of mind is a realization.
hmm
That's, yeah, that's how I see it. And that, what that, the fact that can, um, fact that I can give a new name to it gives me a little bit more hope. He talks about the
mm,
neuroplasticity of hope. Well,
hmm
seeing that neuroplasticity is realizations gives me more hope because I'm more hopeful that my beliefs might change. I might get out of my way more of the time. Those sorts.
Yeah. Yeah. And just knowing like our brain is not a fixed um organ, right? Like our brains can grow and they can change and they can tell different stories, right? Like we can create new neural pathways that instead of doing something the same, reaching for the same thing, we can, you know,
Don't realizations sound a bit more attainable than changing our neural pathways?
um, yeah, for sure. That sounds, um, I think that I like it in terms of behavior. Like I like that the realization that leads to behavior change. Um, yeah,
New thought, new belief, new behavior.
new behavior, new level of um freedom, like new experience in the world around you and
Yeah.
ability to interact with the people around you.
So, what are some of the biggest shifts then for you? You've talked one of them you've talked about uh, is the fact that you realised that you were overemphasizing your part in the game. What other big realizations have created the most change in your behavior?
One of my kids, one of the four children that we adopted, um, coming to our house. So we were foster parents, and we ended up adopting from foster care. And this child felt very safe and loved in their first foster home and blossomed there. Coming to our
Can you say
house,
thrived instead?
oh, thrived.
Okay,
Really,
good.
truly, like
Yeah, okay.
truly. Um,
I'm pulling you like,
but but that would actually be the word to describe how they were in their first foster home. And in my kids like story of unfolding events, as all four of them come together in our home, this this one is dropped off, and um and you can see the trauma happening as the day unfolds. Like you could watch them experience the trauma of being left at our home, with no verbal understanding of what was happening, nothing like that. That created for this child and I a deep sense for them of lack of safety in our home, regardless of what I did or didn't do, right? And it persisted for years.
wow.
So you can imagine the relationship. And also this one is this has this indomitable will that is so beautiful, and I love a strong will in a child. Um so but if you mix that with, I don't you took me away from this place that I loved, um there's a whole lot of anger and distrust and probably borderline hate, and also a desire to be loved, and um, a lot of conflicting emotions, and a deep belief that now they are not safe actually anywhere, and they need to keep themselves safe. And so there I was with this overemphasis of my own ability to uh, create safety and healing and all of that stuff. And when I let go of that, what I ended up having to do is accept this relationship. We're back to falling madly in love with reality, right? I had to accept the bumps and the bruises and the nicks that had happened in this relationship with one of my children, and the complicated feelings on both sides. And I had to give it space and accept that it was part of our story in that season of life. By doing that, and it was as if instead of fighting against it and trying to make it something that it wasn't, by allowing it to be what it was, I let both of us breathe. Simon, we really like each other now. Like we love each other now. This is a child that I now am able to delight in. But it is an absolute reflection of me actually taking my hands off the wheel and saying, like, I am gonna fall madly in love with this reality.
Yeah. It's funny you say taking your hand off the wheel because as you were describing it like 10 minutes, more than 10 minutes ago, I actually thought about white knuckling. That was the metaphor that
Yes,
came to mind, and
yes,
holding onto the wheel too tightly
that
rather
is
than
exactly how it felt. It felt like just gripping this white knuckle grip. holding all of the pieces of my life together as it felt like it was all falling apart. And this learning to unclench my fist and to hold my hands out and say, like, here I am. Like, this is, I'm gonna accept life as it comes, um, and thrive here. I can like, eh, but what I'm actually really saying is that I had to get to a place where I had to let go of a dream of having a very close relationship with one of my children, which has always been like, I'm a mother. I want to be like a mother hen collecting her little ducklings or chicks, or you know what I mean? And I had to release that dream and say, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And statistics can say a whole lot of things that can be actually really scary, but what I can do is show up faithfully every single day. And what I can do is when my child walks into the room, I can look at them with delight in my eyes. And what I can do is I can find ways to connect here in the middle of a dysfunctional relationship that allow both of us space to breathe and not force this into being. You can't force somebody to trust you. You can only prove yourself trustworthy. You know what I mean? Like that, and just
Yeah.
letting us breathe created space to thrive.
And there we have the second ending of the pod. And we're coming up on time as well. So I had to jump.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's great. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Simon.
listeners. We'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye.